Light for this week.
Yeah. So I like to use the framework of pluses and deltas. So pluses as things are positive, delta not so much as negative, and more as things that I'd want to change or see change in. Uh, so I think high for me has also been uh, part of it on the workout wave. What I realized is there's this idea of like time under tension, and it seems a little bit silly, but I took the time to just do one single push-up as slow as possible. Like I think I probably took 30 to 60 seconds to do one rep of a single push-up. And when I got up from that, I was like, whoa, that feels a lot more like a bench press set than just doing push-ups normally feels like. And then I also did the same thing for a squat. And I think that one is actually even more important because, like, for whatever reason, there's less resistance to do upper body stuff. But when it comes to the leg day, I realized the power of doing one single squat as slow as possible. And I'm not sore in the way that I would be after, like, doing barbell squats. But yeah, that was like a little workout, like minimum resistance, kind of just do something that I discovered that was really cool. Um, and then from the Delta side of things, I realized like I just need to do more outreach for my business. Just gotta do more outreach. Like social media stuff is cool and is effective, but really it's not as effective as either the warm outreach or, paid advertisements.
Big facts. I learned and then flopped that same lesson over was it spring break? Because like I like didn't feel, but like I got two clients for my like tutoring business like low key back to back, and it was just because I was like waking up every morning and just sending like freaking 50 DMs, like literally like five. And honestly, it also made me think like, damn, bro, this I'm doing this like a fucking idiot. I do like I can't deal with it right now because I'm doing school, but like the system is currently inefficient. But it's like nice to like have seen like it's I don't know. I feel like it's important to get the skill before you automate it because then you get better at like what to automate versus like when do you step in and be actual person.
Yeah. Yeah. I also got access to Manus AI, which is like the agent platform or something. So I haven't used it yet, but that's something that seems pretty powerful. So I think combining those two, where like I actually feel like I have a good amount of proficiency in the texting kind of stuff, which for me it's like it's been a matter of latency. Like I think there's, latency can be conceived of as a skill issue, but it's usually with respect to the execution of a particular other skill. So like if you know what the script is, if you know what messages you want to send and you're able to craft those yourself, like that's the fine line. If you didn't know what messages to send and you needed AI to help you determine what messages to send, and then you're going to automate that, that seems like a more substantial limitation than like you're kind of the impetus more than just like a written prompt, like be able to prompt a system of automation versus prompting a large language model. I think that's what it is. When we think of prompting, it's primarily about prompting large language models, which is powerful and useful, but on a cognitive level and in a lot of other ways is not super practical. But when you're looking at a system that you've built, or at least that you more deeply understand than most people understand LLMs, that is the more powerful kind of prompting. And effectively, that's what it seems like you're doing on a platform like Manus AI. And there are others that you can develop on your own, but that seems to be the best wrapped one to date. Socially, you got to make it work. But because it is so cold and snowy the rest of the time, like imagine actually walking down the river and the wind doesn't hurt, right? The grass is actually green, the trees, birds chirping. Like you gotta believe me on this one. Like
Like you gotta let it cook.
no,
Yeah.
it can be solid. Like you're reminding me of my sophomore year internship. And honestly, I think like yeah, no, that was mentally that was like a tough summer. Like honestly, I was able to pick up every ounce of physical gains that I had lost since I was a high school athlete. Like my sophomore summer, like I was in the gym, protein supplements like you would not believe. And I just as Aki I ever was until I got a personal trainer as a post grad. Um, so that's really exciting, man.
What company were you at?
Oh, me? I was at a medical device company. Um, they were doing this cool like insulin patch related technology, but that was like a super startup type situation. It was like basically me and the other intern were the only ones there, pretty much in this warehouse they had rented. And yeah, the CEO was like some old dude from Boston Consulting Group, and then the CTO was a MIT PhD student. Um, but yeah, bro, like it was cool because there was a lot of autonomy, but at the same time, just like a lot of aimlessness, a lot of like I had never had that much like authority over myself and what work I was doing. Like the check was guaranteed, but at
Mm,
the same time, it was like, what do I actually do with all this time? Like you get a job description, a project title, basically, and then you just get allowed to run loose. I feel like Cassie may have her stuff together a little bit more, Ruben.
mm.
Uh, but it's a wild, wild west in that startup land.
Oh, true, true.
Reggie, what about you? What's your plans for like this next like couple months?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited that I was able to consolidate a lot of the different projects that I'm working on under a single umbrella.
Mm,
In short, I think people are focused on ML as machine learning and not focused enough on ML as meta learning, which interestingly, it has a lot to do with learn well, right? It's like, how well do you learn? Not how well do you learn necessarily the SAT or college admissions, but when the next, you know, major leap in AI happens, the next time something as earth-shattering as ChatGPT becomes available, I don't really care what the timeline is. It's more so that it's probably going to happen within our lifetimes. Even if there's another AI winter and this shit falls off for like 4 decades, at some point, if we're fortunate enough to live, there's going to be another major wave. And whenever that happens, you got to be ready. So for me, that's actually restarting my own math tutoring business, realizing that that was like a skill that I had since middle school is what I was, the first way that I actually made money in my own pocket as an individual was tutoring elementary schoolers when I was in middle school. So getting that back up and running, but also taking the biotech stuff that I'm working with and realizing that the technology adoption, this could be relevant to how do you, is it 3E8? Is that how you say the company?
yeah,
Or
Studio 388.
yeah, so like when you have the adoption of new technology, depending on how novel it is and also how, valuable it actually is, people need assistance integrating that into their workflows. And the ability for a business to get that done is one of the major limitations. Like, honestly, I feel like that's why the company that I was an intern for my sophomore year recently went out of business. Although, like, it wasn't a bad exit. They sold off their assets. They didn't just close up shop. Right.
Mm,
And then, like the company that I worked at for a while, after that, same thing. Like, I think the ability to explain your innovation and assist people in taking it on, especially if it's a space that doesn't really have competitors and comparisons. Right. So that's like cool how I've been able to take, another skill set that I have, bring it back to the forefront, make it relevant to AI and also the biotech stuff that I'm doing. And then the other side of things is just like spending more time in nature, getting back to my property. I've been, indoors up at this spot that I've been renting since, November. But it's about that time to get back on my land where I'll be able to, yeah, keep moving. There's cool stuff to do with planting. I only planted potatoes last year, so I'm definitely wanting to do more than that. Uh, and another interesting aspect was like, I think I've talked to a lot of you guys before, how I have this tiny home shell that's on the property, right? It's like a shipping container that's on wheels, like 320 square feet. That would be uh, great to convert towards some kind of, small, I guess technically it would be an RV, but you can call it a tiny home cabin, whatever you want. And there was like this personnel issue of like someone who I felt had committed to work on the project just completely did not. And so they're just like moving things around and like, okay, well, if you're not going to work on this, you're no longer interested, we kind of phase that out. And then, finding other folks who do want to contribute to that has been cool. And like that's kind of been like the people skills learning of this winter season. Now moving into the summertime, it's like, okay, well, how do we actually move the project forward? Because it's been slow. It really, like, I got the property in 2023 springtime. By the time I got the actual tiny home situation, it was like at the end of that year. Then it, like, last year, pretty much the only thing I accomplished there was getting the driveway built and like clearing out an acre of the land. And now it's like, okay, like, what's the big push of this year going to be? Um, One that I actually used to make progress was dope. And now to just try to keep that momentum going, um, between the agriculture and some element of construction is what's up next. So I like focusing on the meta learning side has allowed this other like space building element and kind of dwelling. Maybe the goal eventually is like a communal situation, but right now it's really just me. Um, so yeah, that's what I got going on. That's what I'm hoping these sunshiny days of May, June, July, August will look like.
You wake up tired and like you're groggy, like
Yes.
you're on zombie mode. So it's like,
Yeah.
"Dang, bro, I need to wake up. Give me a coffee." It's like,
Yeah. And then the cycle just continues. You keep reaching for the caffeine, you keep reaching for like the Celsius, like yeah.
That's drugs, bro.
low key, it's just liquid, the liquid form, bro.
No, I mean, if you look at it as a drug, which many people do, it's the most common one in the world, bro. It's just like anything. Like how do crack dealers operate? Oh yeah, you can get here's a little taste. Here, grab this one for free. And what's Starbucks doing? Free coffee, everybody, free frappuccino. Like, yo, it's the same shit.
Oh wait, I don't think I asked you yet, but Reggie, what about you? Like, what's something you've been doing to like practice self-care?
So most recently, well, two things. One, I've been getting back into reading. This year, I didn't read that many books, especially this time of year. Last year, I was heavy on the audiobooks. But this year,
Mm.
slowly, I've been getting back into reading. Whether that's, sacred texts or like, you know, I guess you can call them classics. I don't know if like Renaissance era stuff is called like classics now, like, but like even like I have Plato, like the Republic that I've been working my way through. Last trip to the bookstore, I grabbed like some stuff from the Stoics. And then, but I've combined that, like looking more deeply into different kinds of personality systems. So astrology is like one thing that's out there that has utility, but doesn't get the depth. By the way, if anybody ever asks you like what's your sign, or if you're into astrology, I feel like the best response is like in what system, because there are multiple astrological systems. If you like, I don't got to get into that now, but like if somebody's trying to like get at you that way, it's like, well, you turn the question back on them and you're like, well, what are you into or what do you do? Do you even know that there are multiple astrological systems? All that aside, there are also different personality systems, right? Whether it's Myers-Briggs, or like the discus is something that's really common. I think that's used in hiring sometimes. There's one called human design. Um, there's another one that's called like the gene keys. And while they're not all necessarily the most scientifically rooted, they have, pretty substantial followings, and they develop a dialogue or a way of self-knowledge, that can kind of at least put you on some kind of map. If you think the map is legit or not, it's up to you. And I think more so as to whether the map is faithful to reality is more so whether the relations within the map are useful, right? So if they tell you this about this chakra, it's like, I don't know if that's exactly legit or not. If there's a piece of it that's real dope, but more importantly, if there's a strategy from A to B that might get me to where I need to go, it doesn't matter if I necessarily believe in what they're defining A and B as. More important is like, I think this is going to give me some motion, you know? Um, so yeah, those kind of systems, specifically the human design, has a component of it where they talk about strategy, and authority that are, somewhat personalized and on the basis of one's individual background. Um, yeah, so that's been something that like it's just a structure that I can feel involved in and invested in. Uh, honestly, what's funny is that in going into that, one of the things that I learned for myself was the ways where it might actually be useful to take a step back from aggressively pursuing meaning in everything. I think there's an idea of like what is knowable and what is unknowable, and how useful it is to be able to put up that fence of saying, okay, this is the unknowable area, so let me not proceed to pursue knowledge in what I have the knowledge is unknowable. That may change, so it's useful to, I guess, examine your fence as to whether what you thought was unknowable is still, but like there's a difference between examining that fence as to the boundaries of the unknowable versus hopping the fence and walking around in that environment of what you've already said is unknowable.
I don't know. That just made me think of Hunter x Hunter. It made me think of like Dark Continent. Of like also something you had mentioned earlier made me think of something Jordan Peterson has said, but it was more so like, damn, drop the fuck out of my phone. Something along the lines of like the maps of meaning and like to like which degree like, oh yeah, who cares? Is it really as important what A and B are defined as so long as it gets to your destination? And I think like that, I don't want to like put words in people's mouths, but like that was an interesting definition of truth that I like, I don't know, I hold on to a little bit of like truth defined as like how well does this map to reality and or getting the results that I would like to occur more often.
Yeah. Like if you drop the spliff, does that mean your girl is cheating on you right then? Like maybe, but also however, is it
Yes.
more likely that that's happened if you are smoking a lot and you're being clumsy? That may be a truthful correlation. You know what I mean? So like whether it's like superstition or again, more well-defined systems, and I think, cultural systems of superstition are fairly well-defined, although they get degraded in different ways than, perhaps certain written systems might. And yet, yeah, you gotta find a way to go day to day.